Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I wanted to talk about Petrus Van Mastrich and his work, Theoretical-Practical Theology. Just a little bit of backstory on who Petrus Van Mastrich was. He was a Reformed theologian born in 1630 and died on 1706. He completed his Master's of Arts and Doctor of Theology at the University of Duisburg, and while he was serving as a pastor, Maastricht served as professor of Hebrew and theology at the university from 1670 to 1677. He then succeeded Wojciech, I think I'm pronouncing that right, as professor of Hebrew and theology at the University of Utrecht in 1677. He also served as an elder and supply preacher for the classes in Amsterdam. That's just a little bit of backstory on who Maastricht was. He lived in the same period as Francis, roughly the same period as Francis Turton and Wilhelmus A. Brakel. Now when it comes to his works in particular, this is his magnum opus, his Theoretical-Practical Theology. It comes in, right now Reformation Heritage Books has published and translated 4 of his volumes, the first being Prolegomena, the second, Faith in the Triune God, the fourth, The Works of God in Relation to Man, and the fourth, The Redemption in Christ. So the last one is purely Christology, right? And so I mainly skipped over the Prolegomena, which is kind of like an introduction to dogmatics, sort of. I skipped over that, but I did read The Best Method of Preaching, just to kind of get an understanding of like his format of the entire work. And what else? So I kind of skipped to the second volume, and I read the first 100 pages of this volume, which is Faith in the Triune God, and roughly 100 pages, not including the Best Method of Preaching. So the chapters that I've read so far is pretty sure 4 chapters. So the first chapter is Saving Faith. Second chapter is The Existence and Knowledge of God. The third chapter is The Essence and Independence of God. And the fourth chapter is The Names of God. So I just finished The Names of God, and I'm going to start reading the attributes of God in general. That's kind of like the first 100 pages. And also something that I wanted to point out is that usually in systematic representations of theology, they start with theology proper, which he does here, but they just start with the existence of God. But in this, he starts with faith in that God, and he starts about the nature of faith, which is definitely not conventional for most systematic theologies. Usually they just start with the existence of God, but that definitely emphasizes the practicality of these doctrines about God and about his existence. So I definitely appreciate that, and it's definitely a theme that's in his entire work, which is kind of the practicality of theology. That's why it's called Theoretical-Practical Theology. Now about the contents of the 100 pages that I've read so far. It talks about, obviously, as I listed before, the different chapters. But just a quick overview of the method that he uses, his method of preaching, I guess, would be, so he starts with an exegesis of a passage. So he starts with a passage from the Bible. Then he goes into the exegesis of that passage, or the interpreting of what that passage means. Then he goes into the dogmatic part in how it relates to doctrine and how it's formulated. And then he goes into the elenchtic part, which is like the controversies of the day and like arguments and stuff. And then he goes into the practical part, which is very interesting. And that's always the last part. And sometimes he has like others like mixed in there. But yeah, that's pretty much the outline for all his chapters. And I really like it a lot because it's very like it's a very readable manner that it's represented. And at the beginning, I was worried that he would be a little bit difficult to like understand, but so far I haven't had really like a big problem. Mostly it's just on the elentic parts. But yeah, I'm definitely enjoying this, and I cannot stress enough how much I love this volume so far. It's definitely, out of all the theologians, very few theologians that I've read, he's definitely my favorite. 100%, he's my favorite. Especially so. He deals a lot, so far what I've read, he deals a lot with Rene Descartes' philosophy, and his epistemology, which is very interesting actually. And he has like certain refutations of his doctrines. And I'm not sure if Descartes ever like responded to that, or I'm not even sure too much about the history. But yeah. But he definitely kind of like refutes a lot of Descartes. And he talks about him a lot, or his philosophy and stuff, which is very interesting to learn about, you know. So yeah, I'm losing my voice a little bit. So yeah, let's see. So yeah, he starts with saving faith, existence of God, knowledge of God, the names of God. So I'm going to get into the attributes of God in general, which I'm very excited for. And I just kind of wanted to do this little update on how it's going with Petrus Van Mastrich. And so far, I'm loving it. It's such a great work. And I cannot recommend it enough. Even if you're like a beginner, like I'm like the definition of a beginner. I've just started this work, and it's great. And I just think that it's that everyone should read it. And but yeah, and also the footnotes help a lot too. So yeah. I hope you enjoyed. I'll probably be making other updates as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah. Thank you for watching.